Our guest for the next hour is Fredrick Okango. He is the Secretary of Political Affairs for KANU, the political party. Fred, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Welcome to the hot seat of the situation.
Should we say Happy Mid-New Year or
Happy? It's not mid. It is New Year.
No.
Have we met this year?
This year we haven't met.
Then it's Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Symbol. It is as simple as that. Servus.
Yeah, but when you approach past February, Eric, you always say now, just say good morning.
So what do you want us to say now? Happy Easter. Happy Lent.
Happy February. Happy Valentine.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Well,
that too. That too. And actually now you're talking about Valentine and appreciation of love. This guy was the first guest that we hosted on The Situation.
absolutely.
4 years ago. So initially, when we started the show, we had our conversations, and then one day we decided,
Let's bring in someone.
Let's start talking. And Fred was our first person. Yeah?
That was very good.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it.
Kabisa. Hata Ednah amekupigia makofi.
I'm a loyal listener and viewer of the Situation Room, even if the discussion don't go in our favor. And now I mean our political formation as Azimio.
Right.
But always you have done a good job.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate.
What does it mean by a discussion going in your favor?
As a politician, I mean the content of that discussion to be perceived to be favoring us out there. And that is the beauty of politics. Any discussion, if it doesn't favor you, then you're not in it.
Kabisa. So let me give you the day's proverb. It's from Angola, this week's proverb. City is not here today, but he told me when Fredrick comes, give him this proverb and ask him for his interpretation. The squirrel does not talk back to the elephant.
Repeat it.
The squirrel does not talk back to the elephant.
Okay. The squirrel is a very small animal. The elephant is a big animal. In my own interpretation, the young should respect the old. That's the elementary interpretation I would give it. I think so.
The young should respect the old.
Absolutely.
Now that KANU is the oldest political party in this country.
You know where he's going to
Baba Yao.
I mean,
So all these other parties should respect KANU.
do you know where we have come from?
They have actually tried. And people never leave KANU. No one ever leave KANU. Even Ruto has never left. Raila has never left KANU.
What does that
What
mean?
does that
Kalonzo
mean?
Musyoka has never left KANU. KANU had a philosophy.
Uhuru has never left KANU.
No, he will never leave. And they live with that philosophy.
Which is?
Peace, love, and unity.
Was that KANU's philosophy or was that Moi's philosophy?
Moi was KANU and KANU was Moi.
Can't separate one from the other.
No, you cannot.
What is the ideology of KANU?
Our ideology is on three fronts. One, protection and strengthening of devolution. Number two, we also believe in fighting corruption. And number three, we believe in social justice.
KANU fighting corruption.
Has always fought corruption.
You know, I'm going with that. Just don't worry. Now, we invited you so we can ask whether those who are on the opposition side, those who are not in the leadership, the current political leadership of the country in terms of governance, have a voice. And whether their voice is loud enough to counter that of those in government. Here we're talking about Kenya Kwanza and then the other formations outside, right? We see Kenya Kwanza leadership talking, saying this is what we are doing. We are doing this in the full implementation of our manifesto that we promised Kenyans, and there's a reason why they voted us into office. We are approaching this this way, and then sometimes the citizens themselves feel, no, even though we may have voted for you, but this is not what we had in mind. And then they expect that their leaders in the other political formations would now come out and amplify their voice. Do you feel that the opposition is doing that job?
Thank you, Eric. First of all, I think we need to put some things into perspective.
Perspective number one.
When you talk about opposition in the current structure of government, there's no opposition. In fact, if there's opposition, the opposition is parliament itself. The reason I'm saying that is because the provisions of law are such that the member of parliament has got some constitutional duty in oversight. They oversight national funds and their expenditure. They oversight state organs, and they oversight state officers, and also initiate process of their removal. And to that extent, every member of parliament, whether you are Azimio, Kenya Kwanza, independent, you are bound by constitutional provisions to oversight the government of the day. However, for us in Azimio, having not formed government, I've seen the media always report my coalition party leader Raila Odinga. They report Azimio leader or opposition leader, just because he is not in government. So I'll give you the benefit of doubt that you are referring to those who are not in government as opposition.
I explained it that way.
But the expectation is that the members of parliament are supposed to do the oversight job. And I'll answer you. I strongly believe that for us who are not in government, we have done the very best. If you look at our performance from the time election ended and to date, we have managed to raise certain issues of concern to the people. And some of those issues have found themselves in court. Some of them have found themselves on the floor of the House, the bicameral House. And some of them have made a very big discourse out there. I'll give you an example. Remember the G2G. You remember the issue of our policemen going to Haiti. You remember the issue of KEMSA. You remember the issue of oil. All those scandals were brought to the media through the discussion that we started, and we gave it out there. On the floor of the parliament, we have a very strong, suitable, and capable leader of minority. And when I say that, I mean Opiyo Wandayi. And if you look at how he has managed to lead the team, and of course, rally his colleagues from the opposition to talk into issues of concern. And I'll give you another example. When Kenya Kwanza brought the Finance Bill 2023, now an act, we opposed it and we gave reasons. We even gave alternative to that. So our performance has been impressive, if I would say. However, we could do more. We could do more. And I'm saying that with a lot of respect because we know the people of Kenya are hurting. And the expectation from their leaders, irrespective, because today, Kenyans have lost hope in this regime, including those they called hustlers, Mama Mboga, Mkokoteni. They have lost hope. The churches, most of them who supported this regime, are saying we were duped. So everyone is looking at those who are outside government for help. They cry to Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka every day. So there's a lot of pressure on those who are outside government to secure the lives of Kenyans. And that's why I'm saying there's more to be done, even though they have tried.
So who should be in a position of opposition? Because you did, we established, yes, Parliament at whatever level, Senate or the National Assembly, then does deal with oversight, which we know. And we are saying that it is necessary to have somebody who is going to then come in and check, even outside government. The assumption has always been that the one who doesn't make it into the presidency then automatically fills the position of the opposition. Is that assumption founded in anything, and should it be the case?
That assumption is founded in the previous constitution when we had the leader of official opposition, and it was automatic that that person who lost or became second in the presidential contest fills the gap. But we are in the new Constitution of Kenya 2010 that has given structures of governance, as I've explained. The public expectation is that when you contest election and you lose, whether you become number 10, the public expectation is that you had some vision, you had an agenda, you had a manifesto, and it is in the interest of the public to see that whatever you had find its way somehow. The difficulty is, if you are not in parliament, or if you don't have members in parliament or county assembly, then seeing that vision come to light is very difficult. And that's why the pressure has always been on those who are outside. Like today, we are talking about the policies of, Kenya Kwanza. They have brought some policies that, in our view, are heartless and, reckless. Things like affordable housing. We had affordable housing in our manifestos as a MIO. They have it today. But we have said their implementation mechanism, something that the courts have agreed with us, and even to that extent declared it's unconstitutional and cited a lot of irregularities. We are saying that for them to implement it, there must be certain aspect of legal framework. They have to create certain measures to ensure that it is not discriminative and so on and so forth. So what we are saying is we can only speak from outside, while we can also urge our members of parliament in the floor to contribute to that and make amendments, if possible, that are pro the people, that also can see, can help us have the views that we had in our manifesto see light of the day at that end. So the issue of opposition being outside parliament is equally important as it's being in parliament. And that's why we would appreciate the people of Kenya who think beyond parliament and become active citizens, not only in members of parliament, even yourselves outside there, anyone.
Another forum.
Civil society, active citizens, and so on and so forth. So it's not only about politicians. It's about every Kenyan who believes that they must put the government of the day to be accountable, and so on and so forth.
Do you think they need a leader? Do you think usually we find that people might be of like mind, there are things that are coming up and they say, well, this doesn't make sense. I want to speak, but I feel that, my voice is not loud enough. Do you think that all of these need to be brought together in concert by somebody who would lead that opposition?
I strongly believe so, because, when you're a group of people and you speak from different platforms and you speak the same thing, chances are very high that you'll be disorganized, you'll not be coordinated. And therefore, it is important that they converge at some point and speak from a point of convergence where their voice can be even louder. And that reminds me, when the election ended, there were people who argued that, and particularly Kenya Kwanza, they argued that, we cannot have somebody who goes for a contest and becomes number 2 with more than half of the country or half of the country outside, just making noise in the streets. We must find a way of structuring how this guy or this person is going to engage the public. And then they proposed in the report, if you remember, the opposition, leader of official opposition. And then the NADCO report invited the public, the NADCO committee invited the public to, give their views. You'll be shocked, Eric. Majority of those people, because I was part of the technical team of the National Dialogue Committee, majority of the people who appeared before that committee actually agreed that, wait a minute, it's actually important to have a structure of governance where the person who, or the coalition or political formation that becomes second, that garners the second largest number of votes, nominates a leader who becomes the leader of official opposition. And therefore, all these voices rally around him to put the government in check. Something that we agree with, even though it was their idea from the other side. So I agree when we say that when we look at the performance of opposition, maybe we need to start looking at it not only within parliament, but also from outside.
From outside parliament.
Yes.
How should it be structured let's talk about outside Parliament, okay? Because we have all these other voices. We have the civil society organizations. We've got religious organizations, well, part of civil society. We've got the media. We've got citizens in various fora and various groupings. How should their civic engagement be organized? Should we let it be organic? Should it have a structure where they feed into?
I've always believed that being an active citizen is very important. And there's a constitutional principle in this country that is called participation of the people. If you look at every aspect of involving the people, when the government involves the people, they always require the participation of the people. And a lot of cases have been lost by the government of the day in court because of lack of citizen involvement and engagement. Now, I think the starting point would be, how do people participate in how they are governed? Then now it builds to a structured way of participation. Number two, I also strongly believe that in organizing a working opposition, I keep comparing the Labour Party, how they do their politics. It is structured in a way that the party that consider itself opposition has got partnerships with people outside, the civil society, the religious leaders, the media, and so on and so forth, so that any information that they want to pass, that information is first owned by the people. And then they become the voice and channel. Then now they articulate it as such. So that one makes work easy, and even it becomes impactful. So people can feel what they are doing and they can hear what they are doing.
Okay. So here we are in the situation whereby so many things are going on in the country at the same time.
Absolutely.
Right? There's a look towards somebody to say, you know what, there's got to be a little bit more agitation, or there's got to be something to push against the grain. The economy is an issue. The cost of living is an issue. It's almost become buzzword now. Folks are saying thing after thing after thing is coming. And at the same time, we do see Azimio saying certain things about certain processes, whether it be IEBC today and the selection of who's going to be there, and then also saying, look, there are certain things that will essentially bring us back to the streets for protests. Is that the way to go? Is that the way that's going to attract the attention for then something to be done?
First of all, let me put it clear that for us in Azimio, we strongly believe in the rule of law, and we believe in this constitution. And that's why when we say the provisions of Article 37 guides all our protests, they are peaceful and they're legal. So if by any means we require our supporters and our people to go to the street, it is a provision in the constitution, and the other side knows that. And we have seen people demonstrate. Even recently you saw peaceful demonstrations during the femicide. I'm sure you guys covered it. You saw demonstrations. So that is something that is there. However, the issues that require discussion, and I mean bipartisan, issues like IEBC. Today, we don't have a commission. And there are certain deadlines that we have to meet. And these deadlines are not only deadlines, they are constitutional deadlines. If they are not met, then we risk getting into a constitutional crisis that will be very costly. I'll give an example. When the elections results, the presidential election results were announced, there were the Chebukati 3 and the Cherera 4. The Cherera 4 disputed, and they distanced themselves from those results. They said those are Chebukati results. The Chebukati 3 went ahead and announced Honorable William Ruto as the president. And you know the story. This thing ended up in court, and it was heard and determined by the Supreme Court. And they said it is Ruto. On that basis, we went to the street, and it was a culmination of so many things, cost of living, and so on and so forth. Today, there was a selection panel. The selection panel was a composition after the amendment of the Election Act, which was largely pushed by Kenya Kwanza. Our people rejected it, and they said it is not inclusive. Then came the consultation and NADCO committee that has made cogent proposals on not only, Eric, to constitute, but to restructure IEBC. And those, I'm sure you have seen those recommendations. We strongly believe that on such issues, we don't even need to fight, but we need to come together and agree that we both need IEBC. Okay. And if we both need IEBC, how do we address? For us in Azimio, we believe in a framework of electoral system and a design that is widely accepted by the people of Kenya and all political players. That is what we are pushing for. And that's why you have seen the selection panel has been expanded to allow for inclusivity of all major players in the country.
Fredrick Okango is the Secretary for Political Affairs for the KANU political party. He's our guest this morning. So as we're talking about now there's matter has been taken to court by a voter who says we feel like we are being discriminated against because we don't have representation in a county assembly or in parliament. Now, we then see that NADCO came out, there was a whole back and forth. Do we sign, do we not sign? Some of your members didn't sign it. Then he said we sign it, Mkono Shingo Pande. It's not going before Parliament. Parliament just resumed yesterday. It's not been discussed in Parliament and therefore. But then Raila says that court story is Opuzi. What message is that sending?
Eric, I'll tell you. The petitioner who went to court on issue of Banisa by elections had a right. Like any other person who feels aggrieved can go to court. But remember, the issues for determination in that petition, NADCO was not part of it. And therefore, we agree with that petitioner. We respect that ruling of the court. However, the issues we are dealing with, the issue of IEBC, is not only legal, but also political. In fact, it is largely political. What comes first? I wouldn't say one comes first, but they must be considered equally at the same time. Okay. Today, it is the politicians that are going to discuss the NADCO report, or tomorrow in Parliament. They're going to discuss it. Politicians have interest, like any other person. And the interest that they carry should also be the interest of the public. And that's why the provision is such that they represent the interest of the people, address issues of concern, and resolve them. So the concern of the majority who appeared before the NADCO said that we would want a commission that is not only reconstituted, but also restructured. The High Court decision is a decision that can only allow for reconstitution of IEBC. Because they have ordered the selection panel to proceed and produce the names and send them to the president for appointment. However, the people of Kenya, who the judiciary have delegated duty, have said, we want it reconstituted, yes, but also restructure it. And that's why, if you look at the recommendation from NADCO, the recommendation that are largely speaking into restructuring, right from the qualification of who becomes a member of the commission, to the amendment of the constitution to provide for verification and declaration of the results, and to look at the issues of the secretariat as a whole. That means
how long do you give that process?
That process, the period has been recommended in the committee report, and it says once the commission is formed, once the panel is formed, within 90 days, they shall complete the job of recruitment.
Okay.
In my view, if tomorrow, for example, the members of parliament from both sides agree, as they have agreed, our minority leader has sent the strongest signal ever that we shall discuss that. Ichungwa, the majority leader from the other side, has sent the same. Aaron Cheriot, the same. And if they agree and we go and discuss this report, adopt it, and we go into the implementation, then we could have a commission in place by probably latest June.
June.
Yes.
That's 4 months from now.
Remember, in the previous years, we have had commissions in place even a year to election. This time, we do have time.
Yeah. No. Did we have a vacancy, an entire vacancy of a commission? No, we had a quorum issue.
But
So are you telling
Now,
are you telling the
IEBC
people of
doesn't exist.
Banisa that until June you shall stay like that? That's when the new
that's not what we are saying.
commission shall come into
That's
place.
not what we are saying, Eric.
After the commission then is constituted, it then takes time to organize that election, and it's given 90 days to organize an election. So another 3 months before the people of Banisa can go to the polls.
Eric, I started by saying we respect the rights of the people of Banisa to go to court because they are aggrieved. And they have done that, and they have gotten a favorable order. That's okay. But looking at this in a large scale, you realize that even if we are to reconstitute that IEBC today and now, they will not meet the constitutional deadline of electoral delimitation.
Yes.
They'll not meet it. It is late. So that calls for being creative and innovative. And in being creative and innovative, Parliament must decide that because we need the commission in place now and not tomorrow, how do we deal with other pending issues together with Banisa? The surest way is to reconstitute and start restructuring and look at any other pending issues. I'll give you an example. Why is it that today, as we speak, the commission, the Nelson Makanda-led team, the selection panel, even after the court ordered them to proceed, they have not gone ahead to publish the names of the shortlisted, because they understand even themselves from where they come from that this is an issue that is more political than legal, and there are consequences of not following what the Kenyans want. The Kenyans want a restructured and a reconstituted.
What informs this want that we are saying that Kenyans across board who want it? Because what we hear, unfortunately, is the voice of politicians in terms of what they want. What informs it that it is Kenyans who have seen that this IEBC, in the way that it is structured and constituted, is flawed and would now want going forward to restructure the entire thing? What informs that desire?
What informs the desire of restructuring and reconstitution is the participation of the public in the NADCO committee. Then the outcome of the presidential election 2022. For the people of Kenya to heal, for the people of Kenya to forget, for the people of Kenya to move forward into the next contest in 2027, having agreed that we are moving forward, we must sort out the mess in 2022 by having a commission that complies with the general principle of electoral system: accountability, simplicity, transparency. All those require restructuring. And that's why I started by saying, if our elections, Eric, are largely technological, and the qualifications of a commissioner, there's no professional qualification that touches on ICT or accounting, there's a problem. Number two, the other issue is that the chair of the commission, IEBC commission, currently must be a person who is qualified to be a judge of the Supreme Court, while the role that person does is managerial and administrative. So why would we limit? So Kenyans said we would want that amended. Kenyans say bring the qualification of ICT and accountant. Kenyans said we don't want a secretary of the commission that can oversee several elections. We just want him to see, or her to oversee just one election. So 3 years term, only you're eligible for reappointment once.
So the IEBC CEO should only do one election out
in the current recommendation,
In the
it
NADCO,
appears that is what will happen if that report is adopted.
Okay. Should the group of people who will still, by and large, be involved in the process of selection, which is an election, also then be involved when it comes to the selection of the individuals who will oversee said contest?
I didn't get your question quickly.
Should politicians be involved when it comes to the selection of the IEBC? Because essentially we're talking about the referee over a game where they will also be participants.
Well, you know, some of the most successful elections in other countries or jurisdictions have been because of the process of putting in place the Electoral Commission or the Electoral Body. And I'm speaking because this is what the people said. The people feel, and particularly because election is a largely political process, the expansion of the selection panel allows political players not only to participate, but also to feel that they have participated. And that's why if you look at the recommendation of giving opportunity to political, what's called PPLC, Political Party Liaison Committee, to present 3 representatives in the selection panel. Then you give PALSCOM another opportunity to present 2. You give LSK, interreligious leaders, and also you give ISPAC. Then it is a more inclusive process, even though looked as political, but more inclusive. In any case, elections are a political process. So, in my view, I think it is important that you involve political players in this because they are the participants of the process. If they don't agree with it, then what is it?
Hasn't that been the issue all this time? That there's been over-involvement on both sides. And really, it doesn't really matter which side it is here. Because we seem to always be able to point fingers at or dictate or be said to be seen to dictate what these individuals then do as an independent commission. So when you do have that, we've heard it before, that depending on which side of the competition you are on, then you hold or you reserve the right to then be able to complain against this commission by virtue of the fact that you were there in terms of its selection. So do we not see a situation whereby there is an insistence on being involved in the process for the element of control?
You see, the selection principles are that they shall be based on the suitability, competency, and personal integrity.
According to?
The Constitution.
Okay.
That is what is there. So the panel that is being put in place, they will not dictate that it must be, but they will follow certain guidelines as provided for in law. So there's no worry about that. But I can tell you, the best people to do this job are the people that have been recommended, or the clusters that have been recommended by NADCO and by extension Kenyans. Because Kenyans are saying, where is the representative of LSK? Where is the representative of the PALSCOM? Where is the representative of Parliamentary Service Commission?
Why the hell does the Parliamentary Service Commission need to sit in the selection panel?
Even today it is there.
Why? Explain. Why? And that's the question that Ndu is asking. Why do we need politicians selecting who sits?
Eric, I thought maybe you would. I thought maybe you would ask, why do we need representative of PPLC, Political Party Liaison Committee?
All those. Why do we need? You see, a representative of the Parliamentary Service Commission, Parliamentary Service Commission, is basically somebody who's been elected by politicians, right? Those are elected to sit in the
whose election is it? Whose election is it?
They are elected by politicians to sit in the Parliamentary Service Commission.
And what I'm asking, whose election is it? This election is for the people. Who does that person represent? The politician. The politician represents the people.
Let me tell you something.
Tell me.
Fredrick. At the point of election, I, the voter, I am not represented. I express my decision directly, not through representation of anybody. Okay? So the person who sits at the Electoral Commission as a referee should be somebody that I have direct confidence in, not via proxy.
Eric.
Of a guy who has come here and told me, please pick either me or Fred
Eric.
or...
Eric, I'll remind you.
Let's just go with the principle first, right? So if we say that we are populating the Electoral Commission with a representative of the Parliamentary Service Commission, a representative of the political parties liaison, whatever, a representative of the Law Society of Kenya, a representative of who else again?
We are not populating the commission. We are populating the panel.
The panel, yes.
But let me ask you, Eric.
Because the conversation here, basically, the thrust of this question is the reason for even expanding the selection panel.
Eric, the principles of governance and national values dictate that we must be inclusive. If you look at the selection panel as it is today, it is less inclusive. Inclusive of who? Inclusive of the representatives of the people. Inclusive of the stakeholders. Less inclusive of stakeholders. And you cannot dismiss the recommendation of the people. When you said when you go into an election, you are not represented. But the moment you cast your ballot and somebody is elected, Eric, you are now represented.
Moving forward.
Yes, you are now represented. And that person that represents you has been given that mandate by the Constitution. And they say they speak on your behalf. We cannot have 45 million Kenyans sitting at the selection panel, but we can have their representatives. How do we have their representative perform this role? Look at organized bodies and institutions that look like representation and then pick from there. That is the aspect of inclusivity. In fact, that is the principle of inclusivity. You pick from different quarters to represent the people.
The recommendation by NADCO, please tell me, the members of the IEBC selection panel.
LSK, 1 member.
LSK.
Interreligious leaders, 2 members.
Religious.
PPLC, 3.
Political
1 non-parliamentarian, 2 1 from minority, 1 from majority.
Political parties liaison.
PALSCOM.
Parliamentary Service
Yes,
Commission.
1 minority, 1 majority.
That's it.
Yes.
Who represents, where do the youth come in? Where do the persons with disability come in?
Now I'll tell you.
Where do interest groups like business associations come in?
Exactly.
Because all these are representatives of the people in one way or another. Where do persons with disability come in? Where do women come in? Where do marginalized and pastoralist communities come in?
So let me.
Where do those
religious groups come in?
They're there.
Religious are there. Where do all these other interest groups come in?
If we're talking about whole representation.
Eric.
Where do the people of Tana River come in?
The people of Tana River are represented by extension from all those bodies. They have PPLC members and so on. But I want to answer your question this way. That recommendation also takes care of the constitutional principle of not more than 2/3, and therefore the women are represented. However.
So women politicians will be representing women interests.
The recommendation says that all the nominating bodies must adhere to that. Then ISPAC.
Why the LSK? Why not accountants?
Accountants are there, Eric.
Why not engineers?
Accountants are there.
Where?
Accountants are represented. ISPAC. They have got a member.
Oh, you didn't say ISPAC.
No, they have a member.
You didn't say ISPAC.
ISPAC. LSK. Interreligious groups, PALSCOM, PPLC, all of them have members there. But you'll realize that it is only in the political field where members cut across. The PPLC have representation in the youth. They have representation ethnic minority. They have representation of the people with disability. They have all that. The professional organizations like LSK, ISPAC, they have that. And let me tell you, this is a good step, Eric. While we cannot have everyone, because it means we shall have a panel that has got 25 or 60. It is no longer a selection panel. That will be a tea-taking party.
How do you rid, right? How do you rid minds of speculation, Fred? Whereby we say, the only reason think about it like this and try just for a minute to bring yourself above and look down on this thing, right? If you can for a minute pretend that you're not part of Azimio or Kenya Kwanza, whatever. So above that speculation, in the minds of folks who say, the reason why both sides want to be very sure that they are involved in the selection of this panel, who essentially is going to select the people who will referee an election in the future, is so that their interests can be protected. Rid us of that speculation. How can we see it differently?
We can't see it differently.
We can't.
And I agree with you.
Yeah.
But remember, politics is about interest. My interest, your interest, and his interest makes the politics of the day.
But unfortunately, it will take a negative tinge. You know why? Because there again is the speculation that I will then be able to persuade an individual who sits on that commission in one way or another. Look at how we've described these people today. The Cherera 4 and the Chebukati 3. Already, we describe them in that manner. What does that tell you? That perhaps somebody used their power to then be able to make a thing go in a certain direction because of where their interests lie.
Not necessarily true.
Remove the speculation. Come on, Fred. Come on.
Let me give you direct
seriously
speculation.
speaking.
Wafula Chebukati was picked by Raila. Direct speculation. Isaac Hassan was picked by Raila. Both were dumped
Not
by
picked,
Raila.
recommended.
Okay.
Yeah.
Recommended.
Recommendedly picked. Recommended by Raila. Remove that speculation. So Raila wants to have a say on the next chairperson.
I wouldn't think so.
Because
I wouldn't think so.
Because the converse has been said. The converse is not speculation. Raila has said that Ruto, with this current selection panel, is picking who is going to be the next chairperson.
Because that selection panel as it is not inclusive enough. And therefore, Raila Amolo Odinga knows that with that, then it's likely to be skewed. So expand it to also represent other people that are outside it. And that's why the recommendation, which Kenya Kwanza also agrees with.
So that he can have a say.
There's nothing wrong with Raila having a say. Raila is a Kenyan.
So that he can recommend, if you take chairman, then I take vice.
Yeah, so that I can have my guy on the inside. And we're using Raila as an example, but the truth of the matter, it could be anybody. That the reason why you want to have a say is that look, having your guy, we do it all the time. It's human nature. Come on. But then we're looking at something whereby it has previously thrown folks into this terrible, cycle of negative feelings when it comes to an election. Having your guy on the inside, Fred, if I say it like that, what does it mean?
Having your guy.
No. Honestly, answer my question. When I tell you, I have a problem, Fred, then you tell me, don't worry. I have a guy on the inside. Come on. What does that mean?
Okay, I don't want us to look at it that way. But listen, whether the guy is somebody's guy, but what is the process of this guy arriving at being a commissioner? He must be subjected to some form of competition.
Okay.
He must be subjected to some form of competition that will reveal his or her suitability, competency, capability, and even personal integrity.
Yep.
And therefore, that person's guy then is qualified.
Okay.
Then, when on that seat, then the guy is guided by he takes an oath of office, guided by the principles of the Constitution and the regulations of the Commission. Okay? So I'm not very worried about that.
Okay.
But what I'm worried about is going and picking a panel that will pick a selective commission that knows very well that the other side of the political divide did not participate. And that can even be dangerous. It can even lead to boycott of election because they will say, this is not the representative of the people. We don't know them. They are strangers in this commission. We shall go and form our own commission. Those threats have been there and we cannot take them lightly. And that's why I'm happy when Kenyans come out and say, wait a minute, there's a selection panel, yes. How was that selection panel selected? Okay, it was skewed. Or for some one, two reason, we did not participate.
Yeah.
Why don't we have now a participatory selection panel that everyone, every Kenyan, every institution feels represented? So when you look at it, it might look like my guy is there, we'll do this. But on a broader way,
that doesn't really cure a big problem.
What is the problem?
Let's just look at this past IEBC.
Yes.
The Chebukati 3 was selected after a rigorous process that involved formation of a committee that was chaired by Orengo.
They went through the process, yes.
Blah, 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 they were in office. The Cherera 4 were picked by Uhuru and Raila as constituted, and participation, of course, let's say. There was a new reconstitution of the panel that picked the Cherera 4.
Yes.
In the end, those that had been recruited rigorously are the ones we are burning at the stakes and saying this man should not even be a Kenyan anymore. This Chebukati.
You know why? Because the role of the commissioner or the commission and the chair of the commission was not differentiated.
Okay.
Today, as we speak, the recommendation is such that it has provided for what is the role of the commission in verifying the presidential vote in an election, and what is the role of the chair in declaring such votes. That is clear. And that was the contest between Cherera 4 and Chebukati 3. Number 2, there's an issue of qualification. A member of Electoral Commission has got qualification that has been stipulated in the IEBC Act 2011 and the Constitution. However, we understand that the election in Kenya is more technological. In fact, to make it even easy, it requires almost all forms of professional qualifications to be representative to be in it. So, the people felt that let's have, number 1, an ICT guy, because the ICT was an issue. Then let's have an accountant. And that's why you realize even ISPAC now is participating in the panel so that they can identify somebody who has got those qualifications. So I wouldn't want to trivialize it as such and make it look like, we politicians are pushing for our own to be there, so that that cannot make you win an election. Even if you are to have the chair of election to be your sister, it cannot. When Kenyans decide, they'll decide. But Kenyans want a commission that is believable, a commission that is widely accepted, a commission that is all representative, what we call wholesome. Okay?
Tumekusikia.
Asante.
Fred, come again soon. Always a pleasure having you
Thank
here.
you so much, and I appreciate all this.
Fredrick Okango is the Secretary for Political Affairs in KANU. He is one of the leading lights in the Azimio coalition. We've been talking about the voice of the opposition.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.